Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tigers Den. We had technical difficulties earlier trying to get this thing out, but we've hopefully got it taken care of. If anyone can hear me out there and wants to throw a comment in the comment section, just to make sure our audio is working properly, I would much appreciate it. But welcome, everyone, to the show. This is the Tigers Den presented to you by Star Sports Media. This is all Memphis Tigers all the time. We've got a loaded up show for you, and let's go ahead and just get started. So welcome to the show. Appreciate everybody watching and listening over here at the live stream. We appreciate it as always. Memphis Tigers, Tigers Den, 4-Star Sports Media. As you can see, we've got some different little stats and such all around us here. We've got a stat of the week is Memphis football was 10-0 in 2023 when rushing for 100 or more yards. And also, Memphis is heading down to Tallahassee for the first time in quite some time in what will be a marquee matchup. Honestly, I believe in both teams' schedules. Some may not necessarily agree with that down in Tallahassee, but it's going to be a jam-packed show. Let's go ahead and get it started. So we're going to start off with some Tiger trivia. Once again, appreciate everybody watching and listening. Let's go ahead and get the trivia going. Give you some time to think on this one. You guys know what that jingle means. The jingle means it is time for Tigers trivia. And we've got question number one. How many consecutive wins does Memphis football have over FCS opponents? If you know the answer, throw it in the comment section. We'll pull it up on screen. Once again, thank you to everybody watching and listening on all of our social medias as well. How many consecutive wins does the Memphis Tigers football program have over FCS opponents? All right, so let's jump over to our first topic of the show, and that is some
So let's talk about why Memphis. Everybody keeps asking me why Memphis. Why not? And why not right now? I love the momentum of this university. I love where the athletic department is. And let's talk about the demographics. 32% of our students at Memphis are first generation. Well, guess what? My wife and I are first generation college graduates. I was raised by a single mom. We were well below the poverty line. I didn't know my father growing up. 50% of the students at Memphis are Pell eligible. When I look at the demographics of Memphis as far as race at the university, 60% identify as non-white. I've been told I'm your first black athletic director. I'm an athletic director for the black folks, the white folks, and everybody in between. I'm here to lead and serve the University of Memphis and this community, and I'm excited to do that. The city of Memphis, your history, your grit, and the soul that you have. I want to learn about it. I want to be part of it, and I'm really, really excited for that. I think that Memphis has a chip on its shoulder. We play with a certain swagger. I see Penny here in the front row, and I know how he approached the game, and I know about the conversation we had yesterday. I want to be part of that. I've had to overachieve to get where I'm at in my life, and I know that Memphis is shooting for the stars, and I think we can achieve those.
Come in, if you're Dr. Ed Scott, you come in, you immediately grab not only the university and its fan base, but you get the city, and you immediately, what I love is I was told I'm the first African-American athletic director. That's very key to me. But like I said, Dr. Scott comes in, formerly of Virginia, dealt with their sports medicine, strength and conditioning, sports psychology, and equity and inclusion, amongst many of the other responsibilities. Prior to that, he was at Morgan State. When they were levied with NCAA violations, maneuvered those waters really, really well. This is what really gives me a lot of excitement, a lot of I just look forward to continuing to our promising future in athletics under his guidance. Like I said, Bill Hargrave would say, quote, "We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Scott and his family to Memphis. Our goal has been on my radar for some time." Quote, "With exceptional student athletes, coaches, and staff that have the backing of a proud and motivated city, the opportunity is here to accomplish great things as we continue forward in a new era of intercollegiate athletics. I want to thank President Hargrove for giving me this opportunity. My family and I are excited to join Tiger Nation," end quote. So Dr. Scott's excited. We know Dr. Scott has many things that are going to consume his time right now. You've got stadium renovation, you've got contract, you've got the AAC football media days is going on. So he'll be heading down to Dallas here in just the next couple of weeks for the American Athletic Conference Football Media Day. And we're going to talk more about what he's really got up against him with a softball program that really needs a great hire here. But contract, stadium renovation. Also, Jonah Dillon, former guest, did a great job in the commercial appeal on an article about what exactly is in his contract. He gets a nice little, substantial little raise if Memphis does become the Power Four in that conference. But one thing, and then this is just kind of a prelude of what we're going to talk about in softball, but I believe in order for this program as a whole, the university as a whole, as far as the athletics is concerned, if you want this program to be in the Power Four, you're going to have to get numerous sports playing well in one. Baseball's got to play well. Softball's got to play well. Tennis is already good. Soccer's already good. Golf is already good. Football is good. We know this. Sustained success. We're going to talk more about it when the show ends tonight. Men's basketball. It's been good. Not everyone really believes that, but it's been good. Women's basketball, which is what we're getting ready to talk about next, has played well. So Dr. Scott has got work to be done, but I'm very excited to see exactly how he does that work and what exactly gets done. I think he's got a great opportunity in a city that, if you do it the right way, will love you forever. So thank you to everybody watching and listening right now over at all of our social medias, 4-Star Sports Media, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Feel free to comment if you will. We will be sure and get your comment up on screen to discuss. Speaking of women's hoops, we would find out that the women's head basketball coach Alex Simmons has announced that the women will take on two power conference opponents in the upcoming season when they take on the team we've already talked about, but that's Tennessee on December 18th. And then 3 days later, on December 21st, they take on Louisville in a renewed game that for many years, these two teams, as we know, formerly in Conference USA, and even prior to that, but these two teams have battled for years, and I'm really excited to see Louisville back on the schedule. The other cool thing about this is both games are being played at FedEx Forum. Coach Simmons would say, quote, "That week in December will be very special. Not only will we have an opportunity to play in FedEx Forum, but we also will be competing against two extremely high caliber teams in Tennessee and Louisville." She would go on to say, quote, "Our game against Tennessee has awakened an in-state rivalry that I think our fans have been longing for and deserve. It's a huge day for our program and women's basketball as a whole, but more importantly, for the city of Memphis. This December, our, quote, party in the field house is temporarily relocated to FedEx Forum." So when you look at this, I love this about bringing games back to the Forum. Let's see what kind of crowd these teams can bring in to the FedEx Forum. Now, are you going to have more Tennessee fans than you do Memphis fans? Probably. But if Memphis can play like they did last year when they took Tennessee to overtime and really had a great chance of beating them, if they can mess around and beat them in Memphis, it does a lot for the Memphis women's basketball program. But I think this is something that I would like to see Coach Simmons, and she's done an incredible job in year one. You look at how this team grew throughout the year. Of course, we had seniors like Madison Griggs and others, but she's bringing talent in. She's putting talent out. Madison Griggs is now playing overseas. Others are playing overseas as well. But now she's bringing in the top teams to compete with. She did it last year with Tennessee, Arizona, Mississippi State were later in the season. When you look at the Memphis women's hoops, keep an eye on this team. They're not going to be one to sleep on in the American, as they made a little bit of noise last year as well. Up next, talk a little women's soccer, as we saw the reigning American Athletic Conference champions announce their 2024 schedule. Brooks Monaghan, former guest of the Tigers Den here, announced the schedule for the upcoming season, and it is a doozy for sure. It includes 5 opponents from the Big 12 and the SEC. Monaghan would say, quote, "We always try to put together a schedule that will not only prepare us for conference play, but one that puts us in a good position to make the NCAA tournament. We feel we have accomplished this." No doubt, for sure. Tigers played 2 preseason matchups against Vanderbilt and Auburn before opening up the regular season on August 15th against Alabama A&M. That'll be the senior night for the program, as the rest of the month, the Tigers will be on the road at Missouri and at Ole Miss. On September 1st, Tigers take on Iowa State, followed by the following week on the 8th, they take on Kansas State, both games at home. Then they travel to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. They get into conference play on September 19th when they go on the road at UAB, and they come back home the following week to take on UTSA. The American Athletic Conference championship tournament, is scheduled before the November 4th through November 10th. And they close the season on Halloween against the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. So maybe the Tigers can create some tricks and not or treats and not tricks against Tulsa. Speaking of talent, keeping up with the Joneses, and when I say Joneses, I'm referring to University of Memphis star and current National Women's Soccer League player Maya Jones, as she was named this morning, by the American Athletic Conference as the Women's Soccer Scholar Athlete of the Year for the second consecutive season. And when you look at this award as a Memphis program, Jones earns the second AAC Women nod, joining former Tiger teammate Elizabeth Moberg, who did it in 2020 and 2021. And Jones is also the fourth Memphis women's soccer player to have won this award in the last 6 seasons. Jones would help the University of Memphis make back-to-back trips to the NCAA Sweet 16 in her last 2 seasons. As a fifth year, she would lead the conference in points and assists while being unanimously selected as the American Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Year and as the AAC Championship's Most Outstanding Offensive Player. So much more from Maya Jones, as we're hoping to get her on air here soon to be able to talk about these accomplishments and more from her time in Memphis. All right, up next, we bring up a subject that just needs a lot, and that is the Memphis softball program. When I say the Memphis softball program needs a lot, I'm not saying that in a sense of negativity, anything like that. What I'm saying is this. It's real simple. The administration owes this football program, this softball program, the players of this program, the parents of this program, former players of this program, and coaches of this program. Ed Scott has got, not just him, but the administration has got to find a way to get these facilities up higher, get them in better condition, because the better the facilities are, the more talented coaches and players you're going to be able to attract to this program. Well, we talked earlier about Ed Scott and the stadium renovations and conference expansion, and these are all very important. But let's take care of what's at home first, and that is a gaping hole as no softball coach has been named, and there's people just recruiting away right now. This program deserves to have a coach in there that wants to be at Memphis. That's not a shot at any former coach. It's just a fact. This program deserves a coach that wants to come in there and take what Natalie Poole, take what Stephanie Prothrow, and then the new coach needs to take a little bit and do what they want with the program, mold it in their vision per se. But there's a lot to clean up. There's a lot to fix. And it needs to be done. It needs to be done pretty quickly. And then Memphis seems to be dragging their feet in a sense. I understand they had to get an athletic director in place. I get that. I understand that. But now that he's been in place, let's get that list out. Let's start making some phone calls. Let's start knocking on some doors. Let's start tapping some text messages and get somebody in here that wants to build this program the correct way, build the players the correct way, take care of the players in the correct way. And if they do that, the city will support it. We've seen it. The city supports things that are successful. But this administration owes it to a lot of people to get this hire right. And I'm very, 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 I'm watching this very, very, very closely to see how this plays out. Very close. Up next, Tiger Baseball. The Matt Riser effect is very real. You look at the Memphis Tigers last year, you watched a program that, yes, they lost some games they shouldn't have lost to. They lost some series they shouldn't have lost to. They got beat bad in some games. When you look at them as a whole, there was no quit in this baseball program the entire season. We talked a lot about it. Man, I've talked about it here on the Tigers Den, but if you've been watching the Sports Buffet, we've been talking about Memphis baseball the entire season anytime we talk about college baseball, as well as we have Arkansas and others. But specifically for Memphis, we've been talking about this baseball team the entire year. We've been talking about Matt Riser, former guest of the show. We talked to him right after he was hired. This baseball program is, things are looking up. The recruiting class coming in, we've talked to a few of those players as well. But when you look at something that Memphis did that's never been done before, that is, they would throw out 40% of the runners from behind the plate in 2024. That is the highest mark in program history. 40% of the people who tried to steal were gunned down by Memphis. I don't mean gunned down in a nasty sense. I mean thrown out at second or third or whatever. That is an incredible stat. That is an incredible stat for sure. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into Memphis football as we talk Tiger football and specifically 2024 Tiger football with new faces. Who are they? Where are they? And more. All that and more right after this break on the Tigers Den on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. Welcome back, everybody, to the Tigers Den right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. I'm your host, Wes Pruitt. Hope everyone is doing well this Wednesday, July 10th edition of the show. Yes, it's July, and we're talking Memphis football. In reality, we've been talking it all year long. We haven't stopped. But now we're going to get into some specifics, start our 2024 Memphis football preview, as well as right here on the Tigers Den, we're going to talk about some top 10 lists that we've released. Tonight, we'll go over our top 10 pregame rituals. There's 8 of these that'll lead us right up to college football, and that'll lead us right up to opening week for the Memphis Tigers. So we're going to start out with some new faces for the university. And first of those is coaches. So let's look at one in particular that I'm very excited about, and a lot of this has to do with the performance of this defense last year. I'm talking about Jordan Hankins, defensive coordinator for Memphis. But he was formerly at UT Martin, 2016 to 2019, was their defensive coordinator there. It's going to be very interesting to watch and see how he molds this defense, continues to mold this defense in 2024. We would see 2024 a defense that at times was very fruitful, played great. At times, they just gave up a lot of yards. They just gave up too many yards at times. But then you see Jordan Hankins come in. Yes, I understand he had X amount of weeks off to prepare for Iowa State. But when you look at the job he did and you look at what he did in that bowl game, it's hard to say that the guy does not deserve. And you cannot say that you can't be excited about what this defense is going to be bringing in 2024. A lot. But let's look at some players, and we'll start on the offensive side of things. We'll start at the running back position. We'll start with Mario Anderson Jr., running back out of South Carolina, was their leading rusher last year. He is going to be the starter this year for Memphis. And we predict, as we've talked about before, we predict not only Anderson Jr. to be a 1,000-yard rusher in 2024, but we also predict Sutton Smith, who came very close in 2023, had 960 roughly yards rushing in 2023. We predict not only one, but both of these guys to be 1,000-yard rushers for the University of Memphis in 2024. And then you bring in guys, these are all portal players too. And then you bring in a guy like Greg Desires from Louisiana Monroe, a real Swiss Army knife type of guy. Throw him back there, he can return. Watch out for this guy. He can return, and I think he's going to become a real weapon for this Memphis football team in the special teams game before we see him really take off in the backfield for Memphis. But he can still be a weapon out of the backfield, especially in the passing game. Got really nice hands, really can run routes well. And speaking of running routes well, you lose Joe Skates, but you pick up Jacoby Banks. Jacoby Banks from Houston can take the top off of defense, got great size, really soft hands, can catch the football really well. Great route runner as well. When you look at film on this guy, he definitely jumps out to you. If you have any football acumen, he's going to jump out to you on tape as a guy who is one to watch and one to keep an eye on. When you look at him combined with Rock Taylor, combined with Demir Beclumsey, then you bring back Anthony Lamphere as well. This Memphis team is going to be loaded offensively. You look at the backfield. We talked about Anderson, Sutton Smith, others. Mario Robinson from Kentucky is another one that came in as a running back and really play well. When you look at this offense, it's already loaded from last season. And then you got to, at the end of the day, you got to protect, right? When you look at the offensive line, Silverfield, former offensive line coach, let's not forget this. Silverfield really came in and boosted his offensive line. He went and got Trent Hoyer from Marshall, Cadrell Lewis from Louisiana Monroe, Chris Adams from Old Dominion, Jalen Nichols from South Carolina. And when you look at the projected starting lineup, the projected top starting line for Memphis, you're going to have roughly 124 starts combined at the start of 2024. I think this is going to be a much, much, much improved offensive line. I think they understand they have to protect Seth Hennigan at all costs. That's nothing, not taking anything away from anything behind Seth Hennigan, but you've got to protect your quarterback. You've really got to protect the guy who's done a lot to get you where you are now as a football team. 10-3 last year, only the ninth time to ever do that in program history. But we talked about the help coaching wise. Now let's talk about Jordan Hankins and some players that they brought in on the defensive side of the ball, on the new faces for Memphis football in 2024. We talked about how good Ryan Silverfield's been in the portal, and his staff have been in the portal, how active they've been. And I love the guys that they're going to get. You know, you think back last year to a lot of Memphis fans freaking out because Ryan Silverfield was interviewing for the job at Indiana. Well, looking at the players that he's brought in, I'm getting ready to name just a few here. Looking at the players he's brought in, a lot of them came for Indiana. So I'm curious to know, was he up there recruiting or talking to players, or was he up there talking to the team? I don't know. But we start off with Patrick Lucas Jr., defensive tackle from Indiana. Going to be a big, big gap filler right up front, and an already talented defensive line Kamarte Hamilton, Josh Ellison's going to be on the other end as well. Going to be a lot of fun to watch how Patrick Lucas can come in and really mold and work with that talented front line of the Memphis defense. When you look at the second level of the Memphis defense, you got to go to linebacker. We talked about Chandler Martin. He's back this year. But then you bring in a Sam linebacker and Matt Hudson out of the Harvard Crimson. Talented player. I believe he was the first or second tackler last season. Then you go bring in the leading tackler from Tennessee, Elijah Herring, at linebacker as well. You're really bringing in, you've got a stout front line. Now you've got a really solid second level of that defense for the Memphis Tigers. And then secondary-wise, the Tiger position, you bring in Taj Rael from Old Dominion. We talked about Chris Adams coming over from Old Dominion as well, the offensive line player. So you're seeing Silverfield really start to branch out. You're really starting to see this staff really start to use the national recruiting aspect. I mean, you're seeing guys from the portal coming in from Indiana, Harvard. We just talked about Tennessee, Elijah Herring, Javante Mackey from Arkansas State. I think it's another player that can make a very, very strong impact on this team. When you look at cornerback, you've already got Greg Rubin. I feel like Greg Rubin's been a Memphis Tiger for 20 years. I know he hasn't. But you bring in Tyron Taylor from Colorado, Kobe Minor, another Indiana player, Jordan Greer, another Indiana player. So, I mean, I just mentioned 3 Indiana players right there, plus you bring in Minor's brother, which is another Indiana player. So when you look at this Memphis team, a lot of new faces in some places that they can really, really make a strong impact. You look at the defensively for sure. These guys are going to be able to come in, step on the field, and make plays. And when you talk about the portal, and we talk about what Silverfield's done last year, we only saw, I believe, 3 or 4 guys out of the portal really make strong impacts. Now you're going to see more guys come in this year with a couple years in the system maybe and able to make more of an impact. But then you got guys like Elijah Herring, Patrick Lucas, and others that are going to come in and immediately make plays for this defense to hopefully change games and make wins for this team. New faces is the first little topic of the 2024 Memphis football preview. Next week on the show, we will be going over how the players that are returning, the Seth Hennigans, the Sutton Smiths, Demir Bakumzis, and others, we're going to look at a few players on the offensive side of things. We're going to look at a few players on the defensive side of things and see how they can continue to successfully affect this football team, as well as who are some players that they can take under their wing and really mentor for not only 2024, but for the future as well. Let's go ahead and jump over to our pregame rituals. So anyone watching and listening, if you've got any top pregame rituals that you have, be sure and shout them out on the comment section. I will mention them on the air. These are just my pregame rituals when you look over a Memphis Tiger fan for, I guess, the last probably 33 years that I can remember. And, I mean, I think it all starts with us and my family is, you know, you got to figure out what you're going to eat. At least me anyway, I want to know what I'm eating when I go to a tailgate. So sitting down, figuring out, okay, what time does the game start? Is it an 11 a.m. kickoff? If so, are you going to do breakfast? Are you going to do breakfast casserole? You going to do sausage and biscuits? You're going to do biscuits and gravy? You're going to stop and get stuff on the way? How are you going to do it for an 11 a.m. kickoff? No matter what the time, no matter if it's morning, afternoon, or night, no matter what the time, traditionally, my family is in the parking lot and most of the time set up minimum 5 hours before the football game even kicks off, if not even a little bit before, if they'll let them in the parking lot in time. There's been numerous mornings, even now, that I'll make the drive in I'll get into Memphis at 11 o'clock midnight, and then I'm turning right back around and getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning because we're heading down to the stadium for tailgate. So a lot of the pregame rituals that I have anyway revolve around some very early morning, especially when it's 11 o'clock. But I mean, even when it's a night game, you're still getting out there 11 o'clock noon and watching football all day long while you have a lot of fun with your fellow friends. And that's the next one, number 3 for me, is just friendship with, just fellowship with other fans, going around seeing what they're cooking. It's, if people come up to your tailgate, give them a drink, give them a, give them a beer, give them a soda, give them, steak, whatever you're cooking, hot dog, hamburgers, the camaraderie between fans. But what I also really enjoy is seeing the road team's fans there and doing the same thing that we're doing. Because at the end of the day, they're still fans of their university as well. And I've never really understood the whole trashing of fans when they come into your town. They're just being a fan just like you are while you're there. So it really just doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, definitely those are the top three, top 4. Number 5 for me has got to be, football toss. I mean, you get out, you throw the football, beanbag, cornhole, whatever. For us, it was always football. We were over at Toby Field for a long time at Memphis, so we would use that field, go out and play touch football, things like that. But yeah, throwing the football around. Number 6, got to be good tunes, man. Some Seminole Wind, some Aerosmith, AC/DC, stuff like that to kind of get the environment going, get you hyped up for the pregame. And then 7 through 10 for me are really all inside the stadium. And number 7 is pretty easy. Number 7 is get inside early and watch warm-ups. That's something that my family, I know to this day, still does. My stepdad's been doing it every home game since '84. He always gets there early, so of course we would get in there with him, get in our seat. A lot of the good thing about getting in there early is you can go in and get food, which is my number 8, and that is turkey leg, corn dog, slice of pizza, drink, Coke, Diet Coke, something like that. Get in there early. You can get in line, get it, go ahead and get in your seat and get ready, because then you can sit there and watch pregame, eat your food, check out scores from around the country, things of that nature. So that's definitely number 8. Number 9 is just the excitement of the game. Being able, turning around, cheering, spelling out Tigers is probably my number 9 as a pregame ritual. That's something that, when you're walking in the stadium, you can always get a good number of Tiger fans to spell out Tigers with you. All you got to do is start spelling it, and there they go. And then number 10 ritual is probably goes back to my granddad. And I was always a big, like, watch the game, but then listen to it to the radio broadcast at the same time. A lot of times while you're watching the game and listening to the radio broadcast, you can get additional information on players, teams, other games from around the country, different perspectives, guys down on the field, things of that nature. But that's my top 10 for my pregame rituals. If you have pregame rituals that you want to send in to us, not too late. I would like to make this an article as well. So if you want to send in your Memphis Tiger pregame rituals, just shoot us a comment, shoot us a message on social media, or shoot us an email, wes@fourstar.live, and we will get your rituals added into the article that we're going to work on. So up next, just to let you know, next week, it's going to be an all football show. We'll start out with trivia like always. Then we'll go through and do a brief 2023 recap. Then we'll go in and watch players to watch in 2024 that are a little bit outside the box, some that you may want to look a little bit deeper into the roster to find. Then we'll take a break. When we come back from that break, we're going to go over players who are back on the roster who can continue to make a big impact on the football team. And then our top 10 will be top 10 favorite road environments that whoever have been on while watching the Memphis Tigers play. That's going to be a really fun one, and really one that you got to really sit back and think about, to really think back to your road history. Now, depends on how many road games you've been to throughout my 33 years of fandom, been to a few. And then, as always, we close with the trivia answer. And speaking of the trivia answer, it's time for that jingle. Hey, and we're back. Tiger Trivia. Got the question up on screen now. The question is simple. How many consecutive wins does the Memphis Tiger football program have against FCS opponents? I figure I gave y'all long enough to figure out what your answer would be, but the correct answer is 11 consecutive games won against FCS opponents. I could be wrong. I haven't gone and done the research on this. Off the top of my head, I'm guessing that probably the last one was Justin Fuente's first year and the loss to UT Martin. I am just off the top of my head. That's the only one I can think of. It's the only one I can think of. But that is the answer for tonight's Tiger Trivia. As always, we bring you Tiger Trivia right here on the Tigers Den, where it's all Memphis Tigers all the time. All right, guys. Up next, we're going to close the show out. I appreciate everybody watching and listening right now over at Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate it. And also, I do want to close the show by saying this. We appreciate all of the support that we get. Running through some numbers today, just looking at some rough estimate numbers on Twitter, it looks like if we continue the current path that we're on right now, it's July. If we continue what we're on, by the end of the year, we will have reached over 1 million people on Twitter for 2024. So I just want to say a quick shout out to everyone who has supported us throughout this journey. It's not over with. We're growing. We're expanding. We got a new show coming up called Over Under. That's going to be a simple little game pick show where you can just pick a game, pick the over, pick the under. It's just simple as that. Very, very easy. We've got that show. We've got the Sports Buffet. We'll be back Friday. Friday, we'll be talking MLB baseball as we talk futures game, home run derby, and more. Chad Zerker will be back on with us, the former director of baseball operations for the University of Tennessee. We'll be talking MLB with him, talk a little college baseball. Plus, we're going to talk live golf, talk a little NASCAR as well, as NASCAR is at Pocono Raceway. All that and more on Friday, starting around 8 a.m. right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. But for everyone here at the Tigers Den and for all of us here at 4-Star Sports Media, I appreciate everyone watching and listening. And as always, go Tigers.